We waited 3 extra months to get that toothy blue hedgehog on the big screen, but was the waiting worth it? Today we'll be reviewing Sonic the Hedgehog, and by proxy, Olive Garden and Zillow. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Filmhaus, you guys. This is a big one. Big anticipated. So big that there is no sponsor this week. We could have said, why do it? It gets less views than other videos.
Well, and sponsors were clamoring to sponsor this Sonic podcast.
No. We can't possibly have bias unless it's Olive Garden or Zillow.
Or
then
Apple
maybe.
Or Amazon.
Toyota trucks.
I'm joined here. I'm your host, James Williams, for this podcast, Totally Unbiased Podcast Review. And then I'm joined here by Elise and
Hi.
Adam.
I'm the echidna.
I got the 2 biggest Sonic fans I could. I honestly think you're looking at the 3 of us and you're going, this guy up front's clearly a Sonic. There's Tails and there's Knuckles over there.
Yeah.
But I don't like to put labels on people.
That's fine.
Okay, we are going to just jump
We already
right
established I'm
into
cream,
it.
but
We're gonna. You're cream. You don't want to be cream.
You want to be Amy.
No, you
I
don't
don't
want to
wanna
be
be
Amy.
any
Just
of
be
them.
Tails.
Big's
Tails.
the cat.
Tails sounds terrible until you look at the other options. So yeah, we're talking about Sonic the Hedgehog,
Well,
guys.
before we get into thoughts and opinions,
Well,
do
we
you wanna
won't
just
spoil it right away.
Do you want to just give like the basic plot? Like,
Yes.
How does it make sense that
Yes.
Sonic is here in the year 2020? I'm talking about like realistically, like how did
Yes.
this movie come about?
Sonic the Hedgehog is the story of a blue magical hedgehog who was born in another dimension with magical powers, the power of running fast and generating electricity from running so fast or moving so fast.
just static cling.
Something like that. And lives as a baby hedgehog for a couple years on an island that has loops.
Yes. And
Under
owls.
the tutelage of the popular Sonic character Longclaw, which I've never heard of before.
Okay, I did see some comments online. People were like, they really botched the story. I'm like, I didn't know if that was part of the actual origin story. Or
Yeah,
not.
no,
Okay. Wasn't
we'll
sure.
get into that about
Yeah,
whether
yeah.
or not they botched Sonic lore.
Okay.
But yes, until in pursuit of that power, Sonic is sent away through the power. They have magical rings, and if you throw the ring and you think of a place, then you can go to that place. So Sonic is sent through with the rings to safety, and that place happens to be Earth, Montana, a town called Green Hills, which I'm just going to tell you drove me crazy.
What?
Because it's Green Hill Zone. They thought it was Green Hills Zone.
No, it's Green Hills 1.
They called it Green Hills the whole time.
Yeah.
They called the city
because
Green Hills.
I guarantee you there was a discussion between writers where they said Green Hills versus Green Hill sounds like more of the name of a small town. Adding that S makes it sound more like a small town actual name than just calling it Green Hill.
I think Green Hill is better though. 'Cause
I'm telling
I
you,
agree with you.
I guarantee this is a
I think that's
discussion
the
had.
whole movie though. If someone had a discussion and they go, but what would make sense when you're dealing with a blue hedgehog running fast, right? So anyway, he's in Green Hills, a phrase that they repeat 1,000 times over the course of the movie, just in case you got it. He plays ping pong on Hilltop Road, which is another just random level that they picked.
Chemical Zone.
So anyway, it's a very small town and not a lot going on, but Sonic has made a life for himself, although in isolation. And he's kind of lonely sometimes, but also has really bad ADD. So it's hard keeping track of what he's actually feeling at any given moment.
It's got a great J.O. den.
Got a great J.O. den. James Marsden is a cop. He appears to be one of the 2 cops that work in the town, this very small town, but he hates it. He hates the people. And
He can't wait. He wants to go somewhere where the action is.
he says
San Francisco.
it's real boring.
He's a
it's real
glorified
boring town.
babysitter to the inhabitants
yeah.
of this town because he's helping ducks cross the street. He's cleaning people's gutters. He wants to actually help save someone's life.
He wants to do some genuine police work, and
and lo and
be a
behold, this
protector.
blue hedgehog falls right on his lap.
And so then Sonic, in a fit of loneliness, starts to run in a circle so fast that he has magical electricity powers that cause the government to take notice. So the government sends one of their, it's unclear, he's like a consultant kind of, or like an maybe a science officer.
Yeah, I
guess.
interpreted him as maybe like a contract scientist that the military had given. Like, what are they called? Like
A grant?
yeah, not even a grant, but they just like been like, well, we need this work done, so we're gonna get this guy.
Blackwater or whatever.
I guess, yeah.
But then they realized like, oh no, this person is very unhinged.
Yeah.
He's
but
better than all of us.
they don't stop him or anything. You just see there's just a couple generals that have a meeting. They like send in Robotnik. So then Robotnik goes, and then Robotnik does whatever he wants to do for the rest of the movie. Either way, what he's trying to do, he's trying to figure out what caused this thing. Quickly finds out that it's caused by this hedgehog, talking hedgehog, and then the race begins because Sonic is like, I need to get out of here. He tries to use his rings, but fails. The rings accidentally get lost in San Francisco, and so now he and James Marsden have to travel, have to go on a road trip to San Francisco to try and get the rings so that way Sonic can get away.
Sonic and Cyclops must race in their Toyota pickup truck.
Well, and Sonic like gives out this electromagnetic pulse that Robotnik can track, so he's like constantly on his tail.
Yes.
Pun intended.
Yes. So that's the basic premise of this movie about a video game from the 90s. Let's start with some non-spoilery stuff.
Sure.
I don't think this is good.
Here's the thing. It's not good. It's not bad. It just sort of is, which is
I don't know. I mean, I think it kind of depends on what you want out of anything. I guess like
it's a kid's movie.
If you hate your life so much that forgetting, that you have to go to the grocery store or shower that night or any other sort of responsibility is better for you than having to be aware of those things. So you would rather see a movie that has moving things and you might forget about for an hour and 40 minutes.
Makes you forget about pain.
Then yes, I would agree that this is definitely worthwhile. I don't know that makes it a good movie. It currently has a 65% on Rotten Tomatoes, but a lot of the reviews seem to be, we thought this was going to be way worse, which isn't exactly a positive review, in my opinion.
I saw so many kids, too, in Sonic onesies who looked really tired last night.
Their parents dragged them to the movie.
Yeah. He did the thing where he's sitting at the toilet with his shirt up. And then they were so excited about the potential of a sequel. So I was like, well, that's probably who it's for.
Well, I was going to say, it's a kid's movie. But again, we kind of got into this with our Detective Pikachu review. It really stinks for me when we have a subject matter that's 30 years old, 25, 30 years old, and then it's like, well, let's make a kids movie about it. That's fine, but it's like, and it should only be for kids. And that's kind of how Sonic feels.
But the movie-going audience, people who are going to see, they need to ride that balance, right? So they need to go, hey, remember how Jim Carrey acted in the 90s? Wouldn't you love to see that for an hour?
Yeah.
And then you go, oh, yeah, I guess this is sort of nostalgic in a weird It's a weird way. You hit the nail on the head last night when you described like it is a sort of a fish out of water, out of time. It's like it's really weird to be seeing this movie in the year 2020. It's like we dug up a time capsule.
Arguably, you could say the same thing about Paddington, though. When those Paddington movies came out, I was like, I remember being 3 years old and we had a Paddington bear, and we would watch old Paddington, but like I hadn't heard anything about it for 20 years. I personally still maintain from a previous Filmhaus where we talked about it that the best version of this movie, and I think you guys would agree, would have been Sonic and Robotnik chasing each other through the worlds of Sonic, and the ancillary cast of characters being other Sonic characters. Like I still think that's the ideal version of this movie.
I mean, yeah, there's a lot of could have been better versions.
There's a certain cold hard realities about these movies, which is it probably would have cost a lot more money if they wanted to make a fully animated Paramount animation. Interestingly enough, all the trailers for the movies that led up to this movie were all animated films. Like there was like Rumble, which is a monster fighting thing. They were all fully animated films, and I was like, oh man, that's how I kind of wish Sonic was. I wish they made a Sonic movie that was animated, as opposed to what this is, which is a template. Like there's there's about 100 of these movies just sitting around some executive's office, and someone can go in and do find replace whatever
Yeah.
character, you
That
know,
being said-
and with Sonic.
There are positive things about this movie.
Yeah. Can I say some more negative things first?
Sure.
Well, would you rather do the negatives or the positives first?
Yeah, you can do you can do
Okay.
a positive or two.
A positive.
Yeah, yeah.
We mentioned it. Jim Carrey is, a kinetic force to watch when he's on screen. He
It makes no difference what movies he's in. He's gonna just have fun with it.
Yeah, I do think that there is a more fun and zany and because Robotnik's, of course, he's a mad villain, but there's a zanier, wackier written character there with wackier and more madcap things to do than what he was doing, which was just like shooting stuff at Sonic. Like
You gotta laugh out of me. One
No,
or
yeah.
two.
you got. Oh man, there's a line. It's in the trailers, but when his assistant brings him his latte, and he's like, "I love the way you make them." I still think that's so funny, and the
Yeah.
delivery's perfect.
He's still I'm pretty sure they were like, "Hey Jim, you do whatever you want."
Yeah.
Yeah. You're the funny guy. Like we wrote these lines, and you can choose to read them or not, but do your thing, dude. Like you're a living cartoon. Have fun.
There's definitely some moments where you're like, oh my gosh, that was really funny. Jim Carrey thought of that.
Yeah.
like he thought of that on set.
Yeah.
Like his whole honestly his whole relationship with Agent Stone
Yeah.
was great. And I was like, oh man, they have a way better dynamic than James Marsden and Sonic does. Like I want that movie about the two of them going across country trying to chase a blue hedgehog.
Well, some of that, and when we get to the negative, I'll talk about this more. But they didn't build a friendship between James Marsden and Sonic. The movie told you it did, but it didn't.
Yeah, there was. That's another thing too. We'll stay positive.
Yeah.
Ben Schwartz, I think, is a great voice for Sonic the Hedgehog.
He's so good.
I thought he was when he was into it, he was really fun. I think the voice fit really well.
You can tell he's having a good time.
I wish he could have played more with it because Ben Schwartz is also an incredible improviser, but it really you can tell when he's reading their lines.
Yeah.
And so, man, it would have been great to just have some sort of movie where Ben Schwartz is in a motion capture suit on set with Jim Carrey, and then they just go back and forth with each other. It's clear that they never met. Also, if I follow Ben Schwartz on
Same.
social media,
Yeah.
and it's obvious he's like meeting my hero for the first time, and it's him at a press junket meeting Jim Carrey, and I'm like, this movie could have been something if they were like the dynamic between these two comedic forces, one for good and one for evil, would have been really fun. But yeah, so good performances, I would say, from the two major leads. The movie is really kind of a slog until Jim Carrey shows up, and then you're like, oh, and then it kind of gets fun.
I liked all the. I didn't think the CGI was ever bad. I thought special effects, like they did they did a pretty good job, especially under the recent time constraint they were put under and all that stuff. And like, there's never any time where I went, oh, that looked terrible.
Yeah.
There was never an ultraviolet moment. I was like, okay, you know what? Sure, I get it that they're doing the Roger Rabbit thing, and this is what we have. It's a living cartoon right here, and it never was like, this looks terrible. I was like, passable. It's fine.
There was some moments where James Marsden carries Sonic, and it felt like there was nothing. Number one, there was nothing there, or he was holding a mannequin that looked like the old Sonic,
Yeah.
And so
Very
then
long.
they had to figure out, and they're like, oh, well, now his head is 90% of the entire mass of his body. How does that work to him holding like this? Like it doesn't anymore.
On the subject of James Marsden, he plays that everyman, good-hearted character really well. And I didn't think that any of the actors detracted from this movie. Like they did the best they could with what they had. I felt that way about James Marsden, and I felt that way about his wife, who was really charming, and even like the stuff with her sister. There's a dynamic in the movie where James Marsden's wife's sister clearly is not the biggest fan of James Marsden. But it's done in a fun, cheeky way. And
It's weird because James Marsden is kind of a nothing. He is a human being, but he even in a lot of his roles, he's kind of typecast as being just this other guy. He's just the other white guy.
Well, even
kind
in
of around.
Westworld, it's like he's the perfect guy.
Yeah,
You know,
but he's also
that deprives him of character.
Right, then you go,
He's-
follow me,
yeah.
and he goes, you got it.
he's the perfect guy who also has no discernible attributes and is disposable, right? Like so like he doesn't have any edge to it, and I feel like this movie doesn't really give him anything. He to me watching it felt like maybe how women feel watching Twilight, where Bella is just this husk. It's like, oh, she's a perfect woman, except she doesn't really say much. She doesn't really do much. She doesn't have that many thoughts of her own, and she like is kind of devoid of personality.
That makes sense why I saw myself on screen with that blue hedgehog the whole time. So that's me going on road trip when he can run on his own.
I think that's a relic of it being kind of a template, right? I think it's a relic of it being, well, this is just a vehicle for that character to be
For every man.
for bouncing around
and boy.
But it would have been nice to put some stuff into it.
Kids movie. That's
Kid and a boy.
That's where my brain keeps going to. Or
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
man, I wish they put more of that kids movie.
They should have called it A Kid and a Boy and Every Man.
My first
Sonic
thought
story.
Sonic
was
story.
the closest comparison that I could come up with was Bumblebee. You know,
Sure.
Bumblebee came out end of 2018, I think,
Mm-hmm.
and got really good reviews. We saw it,
Bumblebee Tuna.
and it's great. It's really
Jim
great.
Carrey.
I got it.
And
Took me a second.
Bumblebee is also a templated film, right?
E.T.,
They just injected the Transformer thing into it. The only difference that I conceive just from the surface level of Bumblebee is that one, there was already some really hard trash leading up to it, so people wanted something different. I think people were really tired of giant Transformer Tyrannosaurus Rexes, you know, riding on the backs of Transformer Mammoths or whatever, right? Like, so people wanted something different, and this was like a kind of return to, you know, fun human Transformers idea. Also, Haley Steinfeld is great.
Oh, yeah.
Incredibly charismatic. Yeah.
And they give her a lot of background to have like moments of depth and catharsis with, like her story with her dad and everything. They give her motivation a little bit more depth and meaning.
Well, then also you're seeing they do the smart thing for a movie like this when you use the template is you're seeing it through the eyes of a child. And that's always the thing where it's like no one's going to believe the child.
Yeah.
And now you have all these hurdles that you have to get through as a kid as opposed to 37-year-old man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
With
her
authority in a town
Yeah.
where everyone loves him.
Yeah.
Like,
and her personal like struggles are more, you know, with herself and with the age that she's at, rather than James Marsden being like, I want to, you know, dive in front of a bullet for
Yeah.
a homeless man.
I want to die on the tenderloin.
Yeah.
That is the weird thing where you have to ask yourself as the audience going member when you're making a film like this, how is the child watching this movie? Who is he projecting himself onto? And the answer is probably Sonic. The kids want to be Sonic.
Yeah.
You go, okay, cool. So who's his foil? Who's his Robin? They go, a beautiful man. Okay.
But I think
Sounds good.
like you're saying with Bumblebee, kids can't be Sonic, but you know, in a world where magic is possible, they can be friend of Sonic. like they could be Haley, where like a Transformer just shows up and like, oh, like when I was a kid, I like was pretty lonely, and I would imagine like my stuffed dog would come to life and be my friend.
Yeah. How are things now?
I imagine that Benson will just last a couple more years. I see it on your little notes there, in your little wee notes.
Yep.
You mentioned Paddington 2, and you mentioned it earlier. That was what I was thinking more of when I was watching it, because they make Sonic this empathetic character where Sonic, he just wants to find a friend. Like that's his big thing. Is not
he's lonely.
He's not. It's not even as much that he misses his home, but he misses Longclaw. He's so lonely in this planet where he's an outsider, and that to me is like Paddington, where Paddington's sort of like forced away from the people he loves, and in the little neighborhood in Paddington 2 that he lives in, he's kind of considered like an all-star, but people are trying to paint him out to be an outcast.
Yeah.
You know, and I sort of felt like the way that, like, when I was watching the baseball scene, which, spoiler, there's a scene where
It's in the trailer. But
Sonic is playing all the bases like Bugs Bunny, and which is the best example of dissociative identity disorder I've ever seen, because Sonic's kind of losing his mind with his loneliness, and he he kind of comes to this realization that he will forever be alone and lonely, and it like sparks this like deep sadness in him, which causes him to just out of his frustration and sadness, like start running in circles. And you can tell, like, I actually like was watching that and I was like, wow, I do really feel for him. Like, this is kind of an emotional scene that you feel really sad for this little creature. I don't know that they carried that well enough or really developed the relationship with him and James Marsden to pay that off.
They threw puzzle pieces on the floor and then shoved them in. And like it's like, well, that piece doesn't go there. Like, yeah, it does.
Yeah.
We got to. He's got to get from point A to point B, and so yeah, there's like parts of that where you go, oh, I guess there's some connective tissue there, but it feels very forced. Where he goes, well, fuck, now I got to leave because now I got to go to the new world. Where do I go? And he goes, oh, I can't. They found my JO lair. I got to go to the only safe place I know. This guy's garage who I've never met. And they've already shown that he's faster than anything in the world, and somehow get shot with a tranquilizer. Like, none of this makes sense.
I honestly thought that his JO cave was going to be under James Marsden's house.
Right.
Like, I thought that's what it was going to be. Was that it was going to be that he was living under his house this whole time.
A big thing with all these movies, the Bumblebees, the Paddington stuff, is that Bumblebee and Paddington raise this question of why. Why Haley Steinfeld? Why Bumblebee? They set up the first act of the movie going, she needs him and he needs her. Yeah. They need each other, right?
Yeah.
And in Paddington too, again, you referenced my notes. One of the big things about the whole opening of Paddington talks about how Paddington plays into every single life in this whole street, like all the way down to the minor characters. How the titular character plays into that and how they all have wants and needs, and then the movie basically through the plot helps them achieve those wants and needs and then shows that the world is a better place for them having gotten there in the end, right? Sonic says, I am lonely, right? And James Marsden says, I wish I was a cop in San Francisco. Like, that's about as far as it goes. There's ways that they could have weaved things together. And I guess we can just open it up. I think we've gotten far enough. We can open it up into plot spoilers if we want to get into the actual discussion.
So I would argue that the writers would say that, the way that James Marsden needed Sonic was that he needed to be a real hero and save someone. They say that explicitly in the movie, as they do a lot of things.
Yes.
I think that's what they would say. Well, Sonic needed a friend and he needed to.
But that's what I'm saying. Yeah. They just say it, right? Like, there's a lot more to wanting to leave your small town and move to San Francisco, which, by the way, his wife is just an accessory to whatever his things are. There's a point later on where she goes, I'm a veterinarian. And I'm going to go, oh, I thought you were a yoga instructor.
Yeah.
The way they pitched it, you told us that she does yoga, and so I thought she was a yoga instructor. And so when he was like, we want to move to San Francisco, and she's like, all right, let me check Zillow.
She says, let me check Zillow.com, says on the camera.
But so it's like, even the wife doesn't even really have a motivation.
Well, they mention it. When did they first mention that she's a veterinarian? They mention it.
Sonic says she works with she likes animals and works with them while she's doing yoga.
Yeah.
He's the pretzel lady.
Yeah.
So again, it tells you things, and it's just constantly telling you stuff. The James Marsden stuff. Oh, he wanted to be a hero. It's like, well, it sounds like it's not like he found out that he actually had some sort of other. That's the kind of thing where you confuse these desires, right? Like, he thinks that he needs to move to San Francisco to accomplish this thing.
Yeah.
But the truth of the matter is, what he actually needed was there all along. He just didn't see it.
Yeah.
It never gets back around to that.
If they had given James Marsden like this plot where his brother is this big city cop or like hero or something, and he's getting all these accolades, and their whole family thinks that he's like such a amazing hero, and then James Marsden's like, oh, well, I want that too. I want that recognition. But I think, for the sake of time, they're like, he just wants to be a hero.
Yeah. Well, also for the sake, it's a weird web where they're like, okay, well, Sonic can. We established in the very beginning of the movie that Sonic can go wherever he wants to, whenever he wants to.
Yeah.
He's just that fast. So
he's the Flash.
And he also, by the way, has a bag full of things that can magically send him somewhere where he's safe.
A pickup truck he does not need.
So how do we get him to go in a car ride with James Marsden And the
his
answer is he loses those magical rings, which are the things that he needs, and they fall onto the top of the building in San Francisco.
Sonic couldn't run upside a building?
But when
can
you
run
think
down
about it, I was like, later on, that's another thing. They constantly do things later where they show that he could have just resolved it
Yeah.
anyway.
But he wanted the friend.
So what he only
me in
lost
the
the
leg.
rings
Give me the
because
drugs.
he was going to use the rings to go to this mushroom planet, which is apparently safe. And then he only lost the rings because he didn't do the rings when there were drones around and says, I can't do it here. I have to go somewhere else. Even though why? Like he's just saying it.
I know
There's no reason why.
he's reading the script out loud at that
Yeah.
point. But it was, like I said, they were just shove it along.
It's a kids
Like,
movie.
Yeah,
It's
come
a
on.
kids movie.
You gotta,
But again, I always hate kids movies that assume children are stupid. That children need that explained. You can have Sonic just go whoop whoop woo, and then they'll be happy. You know, like
well, they also do the thing which I appreciated with Detective Pikachu, where they said that with the Sonic movie they go, "Oh, isn't it so weird that this blue creature lives here?" It's like, why not just do a movie where he's accepted? Sonic exists in our world. If you want to just do fuck it, who cares? Sonic world and human world are one.
Well, again, I think the heart of the movie is what it should have been is, and it's easy to sit here and re-plot out or rewrite this movie, but this is a thing that we're getting into where 90s brands are getting movies made to the caliber of the 2000s, you know, like a pre-MCU world. But basically, we have, you know, Sonic and Dr. Robotnik is like it should be the relationship. That should be the dynamic. Now imagine a world where the reason Sonic is brought into this place is because Dr. Robotnik has stumbled upon some sort of discovery where he's in pursuit of more power, right? It's weird. Towards the end, he becomes obsessed with Sonic because he has a blue quill, and he's like, with this blue quill, I can power everything. Except they've never shown up to this point that that's ever been an issue for him.
Right.
There could have been a scene earlier where they're chasing them down the highway, and he's about to get them until, oops, battery empty on his drone or whatever. And he's like, if only I had more power, I would never lose someone in a pursuit ever again. Like, there's these things, these like steps that you can do to connect the worlds, to intrinsically link the characters and the themes that are just kind of not a concern in this movie, really.
Yeah.
And I think it's because at every turn they said, it's a kid's movie.
Yeah.
So what?
It's a mess.
Kids aren't going to care. The difference is it's Sonic the Hedgehog.
James was once a kid,
I was once a kid.
and he sat in that chair, and he was giddy.
Yeah.
And he looked back at me and said, "Here I go."
Again,
It's a kids movie that underestimates kids.
Yeah. I guess that's my
Yeah.
big thing. I think that the kids' movies that I watched, some of them were stupid, sure. And maybe kids will grow up and go, man, that Sonic movie was stupid. But other ones I didn't figure out until much later, but it didn't prevent me from ever enjoying them.
Yeah.
I think the thing that bothered me most is that, remember when those emails leaked about Spider-Man? And that studio executive was like, this is what's cool. All of these things should be in Spider-Man movies.
Yeah,
you
rave
know?
culture. And,
Yeah.
yeah. This thing called
vaping and
EDN.
like all that stuff. This feels like there's those emails out for this movie somewhere. Those emails exist where a studio executive said, "What's cool? Floss dancing,
more flossing.
like all this
Farts.
stuff. Like these are what's cool, and that's what's in it." And then they just said, "Well, shove it into a templated thing," because the biggest example is the movie starts with Sonic running from Dr. Robotnik in San Francisco, and then freeze frames. And then he's like, and then it goes back and then somewhat tells the story. Like
Kinda.
somewhat tells the story, but none of that mattered. Why was there a record scratch at the beginning?
Because when they wrote the script, they didn't open with a action moment, and they're like, "Oh man, this movie's boring."
Well,
Except they did open with an action
Sonic
moment.
running and
It went to the island,
Right.
and then it went to
Yeah.
him being attacked by Knuckles' tribe.
Yeah.
And all that was, by the way, way cooler than just re-showing me a scene
when
twice.
when I saw that, I was like, I kind of want to see that movie.
Yeah, I know.
It's because the relic of whatever template has
Yeah.
that built in, because that's kind of part of the template. The only difference is that those freeze frames are supposed to happen or are motivated by, I've come to the choice. This is the choice part of the movie. And during the climax, am I going to do the right thing and learn, or am I going to do the wrong thing? So you freeze there and you go back to see how you reached that choice. They just freeze frame in the middle of an action sequence. He's just literally in the middle of running. Like there's nothing changes from him having recalled how he reached this point. And to me, that's like just a painful indicator of how much this is just someone just had by page 10 it needs to be here, by page 15 it needs to be here, by page 20. I think they should have kept the original design.
I would have rather watched Grotesque Sonic.
But
as we talked about before, yeah.
yeah.
Nothing about it was ever like offensively bad. That's the other thing too, where I remember being a kid seeing the Super Mario Brothers movie and being like, me being a stupid kid and going, wow, I'm so glad we got a Mario movie, even though it was utter garbage what they shoved down your throat, where the people making it didn't know what Mario was or anything. They're like, hey, Luigi Mario, I got rocket boots and there's fungi everywhere and Goombas look like this. It was a nightmare.
I do think that the design that they have is like more endearing when it comes to emotional beats.
Yeah. But if you want a garbage fire like I did, then
that's the thing is I can go back and watch that crappy Mario movie and go, man, what a mess, and enjoy it. And then like the Sonic movie, I just go, it just is where it's like I would never go back and watch this thing.
Speaking of emotional beats, though, that moment where his niece gives Sonic new shoes should have been so much more emotional. Like it should have been a really, really like saccharine and great moment.
Yeah.
Like written well.
Yeah.
Because he is really cute, and you're like, oh no, his little feet and his little shoes.
Yeah. Well, there was a moment earlier where they like took off his dirty old shoes. She was like, look at his feet. And I was like, oh, that does make me sad because it feels like an animal is hurt.
Yeah.
you know? But
So
then the moment later is like, the daughter is like notices that, and then she apparently has Sonic-sized shoes, and she's like, "Here, have my Sonic shoes." And he's like, "Thanks, kid."
And or I thought it was going to be played as like a moment where the adults all realize that they left Sonic alone with her, and the wife's like, "What? You left my?" And then they come in, and then they see that she's giving him the shoes, and it's really sweet, like
Something,
moment.
yeah.
And he's biting her neck.
Yeah.
But it just felt like they just needed to get to the shoes.
Yeah,
in a lot of
there were
ways.
pieces there, and it's like similar to the Ninja Turtles movie. When I saw the first one, I was like, I didn't really care for that, but kind of hope it does well, so they make another one. And then they made the other one. Like, man, the other one is way better. I like that second Ninja Turtles movie. Not about the original ones, the newer ones, the Michael Bay produced ones, but like, I have a feeling that I kind of want this movie to do well, so that they'll make one with more CGI.
Yeah.
And then less Martin, more Robotnik, and you get a couple tails in there.
Pure Robotnik.
Pure, yeah.
Well, yeah. I don't know. I feel like we live in such an age where the only thing that matters is the brand, right? Sonic is the only thing that matters. Anything we do with Sonic isn't important. We just can't stray far enough from it that it isn't Sonic. And so when they made the other design, they're like, oh, we strayed so far that it isn't Sonic in just the most basic ways. But we, like you mentioned the Mario movie. I don't think anyone's going to remember Sonic the Hedgehog. But I do think for as bad as it is, the Mario movie people might remember. It was a swing for the fences, and it was a horrible whiff, right? But at least I think that makes it memorable. Sonic the Hedgehog almost doesn't want to be known. Like, it's like, we don't want anyone to see us. It's like a person at a party that's like, I don't want to do anything stupid because then I'll get singled out. I just want to be at this party and then leave without anyone knowing I was here. I want to leave no impact kind of in a lot of ways.
I want to see a second movie where they go around finding Chaos Emeralds, like Dragon Balls, and then Knuckles is the bad guy, and then they befriend him in the end, and you see Sonic go supersonic, and he fights that cartoonish version of Robotnik that we got at the end in the Mushroom Kingdom.
Yep. Yeah, no, yeah. I
was like, I want to see those things where I'm like, okay, if this is the slog we had to get through to get to a cool movie like that, that's fine.
Yeah, I love how like when we first meet Robotnik, he's doing his little like zzz, 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 like robot thing to insult the other military guys. But then when he gets to at the end in the Mushroom Kingdom and he's like full blown like psycho, and now he's like zzz, zzz. He's doing it because he's just insane.
Someone pointed out he's also doing it's the same. It's the end of Sonic 2, I think it is. You fight this, or Sonic 3. There's the giant Robotnik that you fight on a spaceship, and he walks like that.
Yeah.
The death egg.
Yeah. And also, like, it made sense why I called him Eggman. The only thing was, I wish his drones had little animals inside of them. Like, that was his thing. Where he was he's like, it's powered by pigeons.
Well. No, my thing, like, this is a good example of the movie. You mentioned the Eggman thing. They call him Eggman. He's introduced as Robotnik, Dr. Robotnik.
Yeah.
But Sonic calls him Eggman. But the setup to him calling him Eggman isn't. He goes, those look like eggs, Eggman.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, so we got to a point where we had to call him Eggman or we weren't going to be able to fit it into the movie. Nothing natural happened, so you're just going to say those look like eggs, you're an Eggman.
Well, they did the thing, which made no sense, is that Sonic has a weird insult sort of like association with people. It goes, "You are Donut Lord," which on a poster looks like Nut Lord, as Ricky pointed out.
Yeah.
And they're like, "You are Pretzel Woman," and it's like, okay, that's a weird sort of like, I guess, and they have kind of a bonding moment at the end. And then he just naturally goes, "Those look like eggs. You're Eggman." It's like, okay, he has ADD. Like, he needs to just give him some written.
It's also weird because it's not like he doesn't speak English. like he could read a sign and be like, "Hey, you're Tom. Tom lives here."
But he needs to have like mnemonic devices.
But they just
to
are like, he's
remember
selectively stupid. Something, but again, that's the kind of thing where there's no intrinsic link. Imagine if, when they were trying to escape the house in the first confrontation with Dr. Robotnik, the way they escaped was by throwing a carton of eggs. The wife had brought a carton of eggs home or whatever, and he threw eggs and it hit him in his face a couple times, and he's like, "I can't see." So then when he calls him Eggman, it's a callback to a humiliation that he endured, right?
Do you think that Sonic giving Tom and his wife nicknames was they were trying to set it up as Sonic is a guy that does this, so it's not going to feel weird when he starts calling Robotnik Eggman? They were like he has to call her Pretzel Lady and call him Donut Lord, because then it won't seem as disingenuous when he's like Eggman.
It may have been a happy accident.
I could totally see that conversation happening.
It could have been.
And then they go, it's also cute because that's what Sonic does.
Also, calling him Eggman that's for the fans only.
Sure.
That's for people who know who know that sort of stuff. So like it really doesn't. Yeah.
But then if you're a non-fan watching it, you would go, "Oh, Sonic gives people names." Like,
he's got the kid needs to pay attention.
I would bet money that conversation happened in a writer's room.
I don't know. Either way, I will say this: I am grateful in a weird way that video game movies don't suck as much as they used to when I was a kid. But I'm kind of bummed that they're not better. They're just sort of milquetoast.
Well, we're at the point where Marvel was in the early 2000s with every other brand. Right? No one actually believed in a Sonic film.
Right.
Which is why they made this.
Yeah. I mean,
so they made this, but it's a shame that we're still at that. I thought it was funny that everything now, anything that is anything, has an intro like the Marvel intro.
Right.
You know, like where it's like all the comic books and stuff, like, look at all this stuff we have that's of value. Sega has one, and listen, I'm a Sega kid. I love Sega Kid, but if you're telling me that I should expect a Space Harrier movie to come out in like the next couple of years, like I was like, look at Golden Axe.
Yeah, Space Channel 5, that will be a thing. Yeah.
Sign me up for that reality.
Sure.
But it just seems so. I even laugh at it.
It's presumptuous.
I even laugh at it when Star Wars.
You feel sad
has
for
it.
them. They're like, oh, you think these are things people want.
Yeah.
That being said, you make a Golden Axe Netflix series.
Sure.
It's true, yeah.
Like The Witcher.
I listen, I will dream for that world, but to me it's funny to think, like, could you imagine if we get to a point where that means something the same way Marvel does?
Right.
Sega movies and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. I'm being harsh only because when I first saw this trailer, I was like, I know what this movie is. And then when I watched the movie, I was like, that's what this movie was.
Yeah.
And I would always rather be the kind of person who's surprised or has subverted expectations. And I think there's already examples out there of this movie done better, which is a risk you run when you make something that's a template.
They showed Sonic.
They had a Sonic reference in there, you know.
He ate chili dogs.
People hated it when he said, "I'm the Juggernaut, bitch." Yeah. But they loved it. That theater loved seeing Sonic.
I thought that was – I only liked that because it was like Sonic is this weird thing that like Sega, I think in a weird way, was they were ashamed of like, no, don't – like Sonic's a meme, you know, the same way Shrek is and all these other things where, it's the part of you loves it, but you can make fun of it, and it is sort of a sign of endearment. And to see them sort of allow that and go, yeah, sure, Sonic, it's part of internet meme culture or whatever. I was like, oh, good for them. Like, oh, I hope they lean into more of this stuff. Nope, that was all you got.
Yeah.
Like, it was just the one picture of Sonic.
Yeah.
And him saying, I got to go fast and everything.
Another thing, another final thought, and these are just my personal preferences, so this doesn't speak for the caliber of the film and the moviegoers. There's a fair amount of licensed music in this, and none of it is as good as the actual music from Sonic the Hedgehog. So, like, the movie opens with a kind of orchestral version of Sonic's theme, and I was like, oh, man, can you imagine using all this great music in this film? But they don't, ever.
They use Don't Stop Me Now by Queen.
They use Don't Stop Me Now by Queen. They use a lot of licensed music and stuff, and it's just like,
One of the other, I don't want to get into it too much, but the movie is also, it does a lot of things where they go, this is Longclaw. She's like Obi-Wan. Get it? Let's move on.
Contemporary reference.
We can't show you any of that wisdom because we have to move on.
The drones fly in. Amazon's supposed to deliver packages with these things? I was like, what?
That was a video from 5 years ago.
Oh, man, there was a reference. Oh, man, there was a reference that was clearly ADR'd. Oh, I wish I wrote it down.
No,
there was an ADR reference to something, and it was so topical. So topical. Man, what was it? I can't remember.
Oh, there's that weird part where Sonic's running really fast, and he goes, that coronavirus, right? And then he kept
that's
going.
what it was. Yeah,
I was like,
I gotta
weird.
run it. The Amazon, the one that stood out to me the most was the Amazon delivering packages with these things for the drones. That I was like, is this going to be a good joke in 10 years?
He mentioned some stuff about the impeachment trial, which I thought was cool.
I did like those scenes.
He had a lot. It was like, man, I think Stone's going to get a pardon, right? Like James Marsden just kind of goes, You're like, weird. They were really working on this until last night. Good for them.
So yeah, I guess final thoughts, guys. I know I seem more upset than I actually am. I just hate being right. I think it's my thing. I was like being surprised. And then also it's getting good reviews, and people are like, that means it's good. But if you read the reviews, most of the reviews are, I thought this was going to be terrible, but it's okay.
I mean, I would give it 2 farts out of 5.
There is
2
a
Sonic
fart
farts out of 5.
Yeah.
And I hope that, I do agree with Adam. I hope that there is a sequel. It's more CG, and we get all the cast farting.
We should acknowledge that we won't spoil it for anyone, but there is a mid-credits, end-credits stinger that's probably worth staying around for.
Well, I was going to say, if you've ever seen any other episode of Filmhaus where we talk about the Sonic movie, we've already spoiled it because you
called
can see
it.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. When the 2 kids in the back, who were the only ones clapping throughout the whole movie, saw it and they were happy. I was like, good for them.
Yeah.
I'm really happy
James
for you.
is very happy.
But you knew
Was
it
I
was
happy?
coming.
I was pleased.
He looked elated.
I was pleased that everything I thought was going to happen happened. That's also a disappointment because I don't think I'm a very good writer.
I like that they did the post-credit scene a lot quicker.
Oh,
It was
yeah.
like, ain't no one staying around for this. Like, go. But there were still a lot of people on their phones waiting for those credits to end just for a little more taste.
Yeah.
Because they could not wait.
So yeah, it's basically a kids movie. I think it aims pretty low, and it does get there.
It got on first.
And so I think it's okay if you liked it. I don't judge you, but for basically everything that's supposed to have heart, always want to find a little bit more. I think there's movies that have done this exact same movie has been made better.
But now you have one.
Yeah, but I had one. I always like being surprised and thinking like, well, I never thought I would care about a Bumblebee or a Paddington.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I do.
But imagine what if Sonic was your life, and you're like, I'll take anything. It could be a Mario Brothers-esque thing. Like now you have something.
Yeah.
Now you as a fan can point at this and go, see, Sonic is a good movie. It's a good property. Like, well, it's competent, or it's
it's competent.
It did what it could.
My favorite line is when his wife says to him over the phone, and don't forget my tranquilizer gun or whatever. Elise, final thoughts?
I gave him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have nothing really more to add. I agree with Elise. I do want I want to see what they can do with a bigger budget and a more focused script, and just lean into the Sonic fandom. You just get some hot furry on furry.
Don't get me
action.
wrong. I don't. Sonic lore is garbage. I'm not saying you need to adapt the comic books or anything like that or be more true to it. I just,
Megasonic,
the
James.
opening of the movie was pretty exciting. I was like, imagine a world where now they have to go the separate ways, and then later on, Knuckles is an outcast, and then they have to confront the issue that Knuckles fired the arrow that killed Sonic's mentor, and they have to come to terms on it. I'm like, that's kind of emotional, or could have been. Instead, we got him line dancing and people being convinced that him wearing a hat is an old man. I don't know.
I wish. Oh man, that woman. She had shocked face. There's like a bartender. There's 2 moments where she just is like, all right, look shocked. Like, well, what happened? No, a blue creature did something. Just look shocked.
Yeah.
God damn it.
So, do you guys say to go see it in theaters?
No.
I say find the biggest theater you can.
I think it'd be like a great little Netflix movie. Oh yeah, that's fine. Like your parents already pay for it, or your neighbor pays for it, or wherever you got it. Totally fine.
We've got a little bit more time, so we won't spend too much time on it. But something else major happened is that Billie Eilish's "No Time to Die" theme came out. Have you guys got a chance to listen to it?
No, I couldn't stop watching that Batman reveal over
Yeah,
and over.
you played it for
Batman
me.
reveal too. Yeah, I guess we should have talked about Batman design as well.
I mean, there's not much to say
Yeah,
other than
they revealed a screen
Strong
test
jaw,
for Batman's
Yeah.
design.
big
Very-
forehead.
very
Leathery
strong jaw, big
cowl.
forehead. People are
No ears.
speculating that the gun that killed his parents was what makes up the mechanisms
He's
inside
got a
his
suit covered in
that
guns.
stuff. He's got a gun
and
suit.
he's like, here's the splinter I got as a child. That's something.
Yeah. So Billie Eilish, "No Time to Die" song.
How do you like it?
It sounds like a James Bond song.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's weirdly thematic of this podcast, where it feels like don't stray too far from what people already know. Otherwise, we may lose the people that are still around. And I think creatively, maybe that just speaks to me. But I kind of it's again back to the Mario Brothers. For as terrible as Madonna's James Bond theme is, I'm glad it exists.
I like her
Because
theme.
it's a point in time. You can listen to it and you can kind of understand. "No Time to Die" by Billie Eilish is, I think, a really beautiful song. But it just like went through and it was like, as soon as we check all the boxes that a Bond song is known for, then we're done here.
I'm not going to say anything bad because we just learned that Billie Eilish and her brother watch Rooster Teeth.
Well, they watch Gavin.
They watch RTAs.
Yeah.
They could be watching Funhaus.
They don't.
Band Manager, I can't be Billie Eilish in Band Manager 3 now because she
Well,
might see it.
I think
You
the
should
song.
be.
I think it's a good song. I just think the more we get of those types of songs, the less impact each one individually has.
Billie, I think it's an amazing song. Watch more of our videos.
You were 4 years old when the first James Bond movie starring
You need an aha.
Daniel Craig came out.
You need an aha. You need a Duran Duran. You need a Live and Let Die. Like in there somewhere, so that way when we do the big ballads, they feel like, oh, it's a return to Bond as opposed to a continuation of Bond.
Man,
so
LMFAO doing a Bond theme.
I would. I mean, again, it sounds terrible, but I think sometimes you need to crack a few eggs to make an
30
omelet.
seconds to Bond.
30 seconds to
They
Bond.
changed the name
Give
of
it
the
to me.
band.
Well,
They're
I
doing
said-
the song.
I kind of wanted a Billie Eilish one that sounded more like Bad Guy. Like, what's
I'm
the
the
Bond
Bond.
version?
I wanted
guy.
a Durst Bond theme.
We got Durst
we
Mission
got Mission
Impossible.
Impossible. Yeah.
Will I Am Bond theme.
Yeah.
He's
so,
afraid
yeah.
of clones. Anyway.
But yeah, those are just those. I know you haven't heard it, Adam, but maybe you can come back later and tell us.
I will wait. Similar to the man, yeah. I'm trying not to watch and have things spoiled for me so early on because there are things that I legitimately want to just go and enjoy, like the new Wes Anderson
Yeah,
movie.
I
The
haven't
trailer
watched
came
the
out.
trailer for
I
this.
skimmed it and went, I'm in. I don't need to see it. And
I remember I told you I was like, I'm not watching it.
yeah, and
you
I
were-
made you watch
and
it.
you, and you went,
So
I'm
look
going
at
to turn off my eyes.
I did watch the Green Knight trailer a couple times because it looks rad. But then James pointed out, well, it's one of those A24 movies, and they could have potentially shown everything there is to show, much like these Sonic trailers that is in it. But it's like, man, stylistically,
Oh, yeah.
it looks cool. So I'm into that.
I am a pessimist. It's the only way I can survive in this
You-
world.
you-
and I
you
said,
keep me
man,
even."
I said this movie looks awesome. This movie looks so cool. But A24 is really good at cutting trailers, and it could everything we see in here could be basically every interesting shot
I haven't
from
watched
the
the
movie.
trailer
Yeah.
because I wasn't going to.
Like if this took place in the Hereditary, like MCU or whatever, HCU, I would believe it. The way it's shot, the way it feels, like that vibe. It's horror without being horror. If that makes any sort of sense. I don't know. It's dope. I don't know. I like it. I'm really excited for that movie.
Yeah. Well,
And, yeah. The Green Knight is my favorite knight at medieval times. So
it's true.
always rooting for him.
When I heard there was a Green Knight movie coming, I was like, medieval times.
Yeah. It's like my glass. It's still sticky in there because it has a little beer.
I never saw the adaptation of the Waterworld stunt show, though. So
I
guess maybe
I never know if you're fucking with me.
I've
when
never
you say
seen
that.
Waterworld. Why
That-
would I? The stunt show is perfect.
guess
Why
it-
would I want to see a film adaptation of that? It's the same with Green Knight. I love medieval times. Do I really need a film adaptation of medieval times?
Well, I'm going.
Stranger Things 4 bringing Russian bad guys back.
Yeah.
They did that in season 3, though.
I know. They're bringing him back again.
Well, they just want to be like, hey, did he survived? Spoiler.
He's in a gulag.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, they said that at the end. They just didn't show him because he couldn't
Yeah.
make it to filming it. I guess he was making Hellboy.
All right.
Thoughts?
Well, I feel like that's plenty for today. We covered Sonic. I
Okay.
feel like pretty thoroughly.
Just tell people to watch the trailer for the Arnold and Jackie movie.
There's also the Iron Mask, which stars Arnold Schwarzenegger and Jackie Chan.
Watch the trailer. You won't be disappointed.
Watch the trailer. You won't be disappointed. They're back together again for the first time
Arnold Schwarzenegger in a period piece.
around the world. But remember Around the World in
Yeah.
180 days?
Yeah.
Also, a
was in
couple
that.
of those scenes from Last Action Hero.
Was Jackie Chan in that?
Could have been.
I don't
Summer
think he was.
Home.
But yeah, so what did you think of Sonic the Hedgehog?
I already told you.
Tell us down in the comments. I probably won't check them. No, but let us know what you thought. I think it's a fun movie that's digestible and easy and doesn't stray. But Sonic is all about taking risks.
Is it?
No,
Okay.
no, not at all.
Remember when you put the game on top of Sonic and Knuckles and then you had the Tower of Power going?
Billy, DM me. I know Gavin.
Wait. Oh wait. I thought you were you were trying to go through Billie Eilish to get to Gavin.
Yeah.
That's the only way we could communicate with
Yeah,
him.
he won't return our calls.
Yeah, no. So thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next week with another episode of Filmhaus. Say goodbye.
See you go fast. Can I change the tone a little bit real quick?
Yeah.
I want to just get a little serious.
Okay.
What to you had a bigger impact? The Beijing beef at Panda Express during the Olympics in 2016 or the Szechuan sauce that McDonald's had that we only found out about later because of Rick and Morty?
I'm going to say neither.
Okay. 'Cause
mattered
the answer is
to me at all.
Beijing beef.